Story 1. I was about 8 or 9. I was riding with my dad, headed to his house for the weekend as my parents are divorced. He said he had to stop and see someone for a minute, and he just wanted me to wait in the truck. We pulled up to a big 2-story house that functioned as an apartment. He had got out and said he would be back in just a few minutes, and for me to lock the doors. So I locked the doors of the truck, but I also rolled down the window after I scooted over to the driver's seat. After my dad was inside for a couple minutes, some guy pulled up into the driveway and parked next to my dad's truck. The guy was in a late 80s, early 90s pickup truck. He rolled down the window and asked me what I was doing. I told him I was waiting for my dad to come out so we could go home. He asked, "Do you want to come and wait in my truck instead?" I told him that I'm not supposed to talk to strangers, and he said, "Oh, I know your dad, I'm sure he won't mind." So I got out into his truck. To the best of my memory, he was in his late 40s with a strong southern accent. I sat in his truck for a while he asked me what I did for fun. Then he said, "Hey, let's run to the gas station while we wait." He then started to back out of the driveway, and just then my dad came outside of the house. I looked at my dad, and this is the angriest I've ever seen him in my entire life, and he started yelling. The guy in the truck took off with me down to the end of the road. He stopped at the stop sign to make his turn, when his door was yanked open and he was ripped from the car by my dad. I'm guessing he took off running after us. The truck rolled forward into a ditch. It was a T intersection, and I turned around to see my dad holding this guy in a chokehold. The police showed up and arrested that man as my dad hugs me and cries. I then received the ritual ass chewing of my life. After being lectured for about 45 minutes, I asked my dad who that guy was, and he said he had no clue. Years later, I asked my dad about it, and he said he stopped at the house to pay rent. He also revealed to me that he was going to kill the guy, but the landlord stopped him and called the police. Story 2. My sister and I were almost kidnapped back in the early 70s. Back then, there was no stranger danger. Children weren't taught not to talk to strangers, especially in your neighborhood. The first time I saw the almost kidnappers, I was riding my big wheel up and down the sidewalk on the street that I lived on during the summer. I grew up in Baltimore, right on the city-county line, so it was pretty peaceful and there was pretty much no violence that I can remember. There was an old blue panel van that was driving on my street, and a woman in the passenger side kept calling all the neighborhood kids over and asking if the kids knew where someone, I assume, the person lived that she was looking for. No one got close, but her request got the attention of all the kids as they shouted. They didn't know the person. Next time I saw the van, the passenger side of the van was on my right as I was tooling down the block. The woman asked me if I knew where Mrs. So-and-so lived. My reply was, "No ma'am," and I kept going. I saw her again later in the day as I was coming back from my grandmother's house. Gran lived on the same street, but at the end of the block. My home was the first one on the block. I was about to be late for supper, so when she called me in, I politely told her I was late and ran home. I saw that van every day during summer for over 2 weeks. Every time my sister and I were out in the yard playing, that van would park across the street, and that woman would just watch us. If she saw us outside alone, she would get out and come to the fence of the yard to talk to us. She told us that she had a kitten in the van, and asked if we wanted to go play with it. My sister yelled no and ran away. If somebody was out or would walk by, she would hurry away. One Saturday afternoon, my father was in the backyard cutting grass with a push lawnmower. We had a huge corner lot, and my mother was at my grandmother's at the end of the street. My sister and I were playing out front to stay out of the way of the grass cutting. The woman again got out of the van and approached us at the fence. And this time she was talking about how she'd always wanted girls and asked if we wanted to come to her house with her. We told her that we had to ask permission to go with her. My sister took off for the backyard to ask my father if we could go with a lady, and she tried to grab me and make me stay. She scared me. I ran around the back and told my father. He had just finished cutting grass and was sitting on the porch. When my sister told him what happened, he literally jumped and ran to the front of the house. The woman was just getting in the van, and the guy driving drove off fast. My sister and I had to talk to the police and tell them what happened. We had to describe our almost kidnappers and how many times we saw them. I was such a dumb kid. I had no clue what almost happened to me. I was fortunate that nothing terrible happened beyond me getting a good scare. Even today, I'm always cautious, and I never let my kids go off by themselves when they're playing. Story 3. To start the story off, I'm 19 now, and this took place when I was maybe 12 or 13. Let me preface the story by saying that I'm not belittling my brother in any way, but after several concussions in football and lacrosse at a young age, he might not be the brightest bulb. The pizza delivery. So my parents were divorced, a story for another time, and me, my twin, and our younger brother were staying with our dad. My dad ordered pizza delivered to our house. The doorbell rang, and he yelled for us to wait and not open the door. My twin brother decided to go meet the pizza delivery man to his car to get the pizza faster, as he claimed. Me and my younger brother started yelling up to my dad as our brother started getting into the back seat of this pizza delivery car. Me and my younger brother were now frantically screaming for our dad to come down. He runs straight outside, assuming the door opened and 2 of his 3 kids screaming bloody murder meant something was wrong. He obviously quickly figured out what was happening, and I cannot remember what he was saying. All I know is he was very loud. I've never heard my dad sound so angry in my life, and I've pissed him off in more ways than anyone. Me and my brother were inside during this whole ordeal. The next thing I know, the car drives off and my twin brother walks in accompanied by my dad. The details from there get quite foggy. All I remember was having to eat pasta instead of pizza for dinner because my brother almost got kidnapped by the pizza delivery man.